Today we're going to make challah. It's spelled Challah, but it's a Jewish bread, so it's pronounced challah. Challah represents the ceremonial showbread that was placed on the table by the priest in the ancient temple in Jerusalem. There were 12 such breads, each representing one of the Israelite tribes. Challah was always braided to invest it with special beauty. In the Jewish family tradition, 2 challahs are placed on the table for the Sabbath meal, representing double portions of manna from heaven that fell on the 6th day, so that the Israelites would not have to collect manna on the 7th day, the day of rest. There's another reason I wanted to make it, actually 2. One is because it's easy. This is something you can do easily at home, and I'll be glad to make a copy of the recipe so that Allison or Catherine can post a link to it if you'd like to try it at home. One of the reasons it's easy is because it has a little bit of sugar in it, and anytime you make a yeast bread that has some sugar in it, it's guaranteed to rise, unless maybe your yeast wasn't new enough. But the third reason is because it's really yummy. It's delicious. You can cut it when it's warm from the oven and put butter and honey on it. It's wonderful for breakfast. It's wonderful for a snack. I can't think of a time that wouldn't be good for challah. The only thing is, if you cut it straight from the oven when it's warm, you have to eat the whole loaf. Because any kind of bread, if you cut it before it's cool, it spoils it. So you have to go ahead and eat the whole loaf. So we're going to start with some milk and butter and salt and sugar. And you boil it. Now I did that ahead of time because it has to cool. Down to, from boiling to about 110 degrees, and that takes a while. If you're impatient, you can set it in a bowl of ice water, and that'll help it cool down more quickly. It really helps if you have a thermometer, but if you don't, you just mainly want to get it to about room temperature, and yes, I just stuck my finger in there. Okay, so this is butter, sugar, salt. Actually, sorry, the salt went in the eggs. Made a mistake there. But that's mainly so it will dissolve. So I'm going to add, these are beaten eggs that were at room temperature. And I'm going to add those to the cooled milk and butter. Sorry. And you can do this in a stand mixer with a bread hook, but it's really a pretty soft dough, so I think it works just about as well to do it in a large mixing bowl. And just in case you've never measured flour before, I'm going to show you how to do that. You scoop the flour and you overfill it, and then you scrape it off. You don't ever tap it while you're measuring it, or you'll mess up. So we're going to add a cup of flour at a time and mix it up. It's a very sticky dough. But it's pretty easy to mix. It's not going to take too long. I'm going to pause and come back in a second. So we're adding a cup of flour at a time, and I think I forgot to mention that the yeast is added to the flour. This is instant yeast, so you can do that. The beauty of instant yeast is that you don't have to proof it to make sure that it's alive. You can add it directly with the flour. So I've been stirring this for probably about 5 minutes. Working on this has shown me that I'm a lot better baker than I am user of technology. So I've got a really sticky dough here. And I'm going to turn that on. You see that I've got a little pile of flour here so that it won't stick to my board. Okay, now we're going to knead the bread, and that is my favorite part. I have a little tool I use here at the beginning so that I don't get my fingers quite as sticky, particularly on this kind. It's a very sticky kind of bread or dough. Kind of gets you going. Watch how it comes together and starts to get smooth and beautiful. Okay. When you knead bread, you basically fold it over and then kind of punch it with this part of your hand. And it's always a miracle to me how everything comes together from this loose blob and turns into something soft and silky and uniform. I want to talk a second about bread in Christianity. Bread is vital to Christians. It symbolizes the living presence of Jesus and reminds us of our need for the divine and human nourishment. It reminds us also of our obligation to alleviate the world's hungers. All 4 Gospels contain accounts in which Jesus feeds the multitudes with a few loaves of bread and fish. Bread continues to be one of the most powerful symbols of our Christian faith. It's mentioned at least 492 times from Genesis through Revelation, and it has a variety of meanings and symbolisms. In Exodus 16, manna rained down for 40 days and symbolized God's provision. And of course, we don't know for sure what manna was, but we think it was little white flakes that looked kind of like or tasted kind of like bread. The earliest agricultural activities began in the Middle East, where bread became a staple food, essential for life. Bread was held in high esteem by several ancient civilizations. In Christianity, it became one of the most important symbols. It was a divine gift, a symbol of the life of Christ. It's also a symbol of generosity and sharing. If you've ever been the giver or the recipient of a loaf of homemade bread, you know that it continues to be a symbol of generosity and sharing. Okay, this is supposed to be sticky but not tacky. In other words, it sticks to your hands just a little bit. Our dough has risen, it's doubled. I'm going to dump it out. And I'm going to cut it in half. I wish you could smell it. It smells lovely. I'm going to cut each half into 3 pieces. They don't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to roll each piece into a nice snake here. And you roll it out just like you do Play-Doh when you were a kid. You kind of press in the middle and gently rock it and squeeze out as you go. It's fun. Okay, I've got 3 snakes there. Actually, I think what I want to do is put them on my hand. It's easier than transferring. I'm going to braid them. And it doesn't have to be fancy. Just do it like you would do hair. When the bread rises, it's going to be amazingly forgiving. And you just tuck the edges in. You see what a pretty braid that makes? Okay, you're going to repeat that with the other one and then let it rise for another hour or so until it doubles. So it's been about an hour and our bread has doubled. And now we're going to put an egg wash on it. An egg wash is just a beaten egg with a little bit of water added to it. And the reason is it's going to make the bread look real shiny and pretty after it's baked. You can put poppy seeds on it if you want to. I usually don't because kids aren't crazy about them, generally. But you can. It's also very pretty that way. Both loaves have the egg wash, so we're going to put it in a preheated 350 degree oven. If I have it on 2 racks, I may want to check it in about 15 minutes and switch them so that it bakes evenly, maybe even turn them around so that it browns evenly. But it's going to bake for about 30 to 45 minutes. Okay, I think I misspoke earlier. I said 30 to 45 minutes, and it's really more like 30 to 35. In this case, it was about 35 minutes. Depends on your oven. But I kept turning it around to make sure it browned evenly, and I think that's why it takes just a little bit longer. Shut it one out. We had smell-o-vision because my house smells wonderful. And you may be able to tell the difference in the lighting in the room. When I started, it was about 3:30. Now it is almost 7:30. So baking bread is a commitment, but you can go read a book in between. And this freezes beautifully. just let it cool completely before you slice it, unless you're going to eat the whole loaf. If you're going to save it, let it cool completely, wrap it tightly in plastic wrap, and if you're going to freeze it, and it freezes beautifully, after you do the plastic wrap, put it in some foil, and it'll keep for a couple months in the freezer. So, as Julia says, bon appetit.